I wanted to give myself a bit of time to experience Season 2 before talking about it here on the channel, and the $250,000 DreamHack Open just concluded this past weekend, so we just have a lot to talk about. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we'll cover it all from Season 2 to DreamHack and even some of the best players failing to qualify for the finals. There's a lot to dive into, so make sure you stick around to the very end. As always, please reward me with a like on the video and subscribe with post notifications on to stay up to date with all future uploads here on the channel. So where do we start? One major focus of my content here on the channel is to offer you some perspective on Fortnite through my eyes by sharing my opinion. Season 2 is definitely interesting, and now that I've had some time with it, I think I can share my measured thoughts. Season 2 is a lot of fun, with new locations, mechanics, and weapons, and just a ton of mobility this season. I'm definitely reminded of that arcadey, zany type of Fortnite, which is tons of items and mobility, and just the crazy potential for insane moments to happen. Just this past week alone, I've seen all kinds of crazy clips with mythic items, especially the grappler, and new locations are all super fun, and kind of feel like their own little mini games or mini missions just inside each single game. Just check out this clip coming from Nick A30. Roll it.
I need to go on his level. He's on this.
I see him.
Oh!
I told you, baby.
I actually did it, Sancho.
Yeah. Hey, let's go, dude.
Oh my god. Dude, thank you for clearing those builds.
I got you, dude. I was spraying him.
So pretty ridiculous clip. I mean, geez, what is that? Bouncing a rocket off of a C4. Pretty nuts. In any case, the very fun, casual feeling Fortnite is kind of back, even though I kind of said that it maybe never would come back, and it is to a sense. And overall, the excitement of the new season, content, and battle pass is definitely waving over us right now. But is this season good? To answer my question, I'm not really sure. If I'm honest, on day one of the season, especially if you follow me on Twitter, I kind of hated it. And even now, I'm not sure if by the end of Season 2 I'm most likely going to enjoy the season or look back at all the disdain and frustration that I'll have about all the changes that Epic made along the way. But this is what we wanted, right? Season 1 featured nothing. No change, no content really, and while Season 2 is thus far just the total opposite, I find myself feeling a little frustrated that Epic can't just seem to find a good balance with the way that they choose to implement new content into the game. Alas, here we are with crazy items in the game, and the question that's on everyone's mind is this: what will this do to competitive? I'm a little worried about the overall loot pool for competitive, but even so, I think the game might be better and more fun with a crazy loot pool than the boring version of the game we had back in Chapter 2 Season 1. Also, launchpads being back alone brings so much fun to the game in terms of just shooting players that are gliding and adding some late game mobility for rotations. I mean, there's actually just this whole new dynamic that's returned to the game in terms of just shooting at people flying through the sky, which we didn't have almost at all throughout Season 1. I've been on the arena grind lately and have even played some scrims, and I'm not gonna lie, competitive feels really fun right now, but it's at the expense of proper balance. I think there's no way to look at the current loot pool or the loot density of some of the new POIs and consider the game balanced. However, new items, added mobility, and new locations that just add more loot places and places to land in general are all great additions to the game. Like anything that's new, I think we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. So will all the mythic items stay in competitive? Will the bosses and vault keys stay in competitive? Like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. To wrap up the new season talk, I think that Season 2 offers a lot of fun and silly moments, but that may be at the expense of competitive balance. I will say that I love the changes to the battle bus and the added locations are great. I think I'm mostly disappointed with the lack of changes to arena and even the chaos physics system. I don't know, it didn't do anything, and I was really just expecting to see some kind of big changes to both in-game mechanics and arena mode. But unfortunately I was let down and we literally got nothing. So let's go ahead and jump into the $250,000 DreamHack Open discussion. No lie, there's just nothing like hanging out on a weekend watching a big Fortnite LAN. I remember doing it back in the skirmish days, and it just felt the same watching it again this weekend with DreamHack. The environment, the level of competition, and the broadcast was all perfect ingredients for amazing fun weekend, but DreamHack for sure wasn't without its issues. DreamHack did, however, feature such a phenomenal point format, with placement points being rewarded for everything from 50th place up to 1st, as well as 5 points per elimination. As an unofficial Fortnite event, DreamHack was expected to be a little scuffed and just kind of not that great. At least that's what I expected, and we saw a lot of issues with the event, from players not loading into games to lots of equipment being stolen inside the event and more. If you aren't familiar with how the DreamHack event was operating, it was a BYOC event. This means bring your own computer, where the players purchase seats inside the event but were ultimately responsible for their own machine and peripherals. Naturally, this type of event isn't the best and leaves a lot of room for errors. However, the event mostly ran okay, and we got some insanely high level matches, and the finals was pretty amazing overall. But still, there's so many individual little stories out there that some of these players could tell you about how just the whole event was scuffed. After 2 days of qualifiers, and what I heard was like 1,200 players attempting to make the 100 player grand finals, MrSavageM walks away with the first place finish and $30,000 more in his pocket. We also saw an amazing performance all weekend from Nanolite, kind of the underdog story, someone new rising to the top, finishing in 3rd place, and then the godfather of Fortnite competitive himself, Ghost Bizzle, finding himself on the 2nd place seat on the podium, back in his prime, to prove that he is in fact one of the best players in the world. So such an insane weekend for so many players, and seriously, Nanolite popping off and really making a name for himself with a top 3 finish. Also, huge shout out to all the OCE and EU players who traveled literally across the world to compete, which of course leads us to our winner, MrSavageM. After recently having signed with 100 Thieves, Mr. Savage shows up big at DreamHack and reminds the world, and specifically EU, his own region, why he is one of the best players in the world as well. He had an insanely big pop-off at the end of the final match. You have to see it. Roll the clip.
He has to look for a beam. It's on clarity. He goes in. Oh, Kazoo! The clutch! Accuracy unheard of, unseen of, as he moves forward. 2 seconds. 1, the next beam. It's not possible, but was it enough?
Mr. Savage still up.
He's getting elims.
Little still here. Mr. Savage just took out Jane, and Little has so much to work with. Benji Fishy in this as well.
Yep, 7 people finally left. Benji is the focus right now. He can get pulled up all the way towards that top 10 to 53 points. He's on low ground 2, going for shots. High ground develops as well.
Nanolite nowhere to be found from what I can see. Mr. Savage falls off a height and RPGs someone. 4 people left, 3 builds, and an RPG to work with.
He has a rainbow load up, but the question is, does his brain match? As a big explosion comes through, dodges the height shots. It's Savage versus Benji Fishy, ex-org teammates, 100 Thieves versus NRG on low ground. While Honey watches, and Savage says no as he blocks him off. The traps are there. It's a 1v1. Is it possible? The edit flubs. He's not in zone. No fish. He's going for it. High ground. He has control. Odenide down there with floppers, healing up. Savage, the next RPG comes through. The pump shot misses. It's another chance. He goes for the dive. No mats. Here we go. Odenide dodges the shot. Savage still up top. The 4th shot. Hits.
Oh! And takes Odin now with the perfect RPG. Mr. Savage is your champion of DreamHack Anaheim in a fashion I don't think I've ever seen. The most elims in a single game, 2 after all day, 9.
That was actually such an insane endgame. Mr. Savage dropping 9 kills and a win in the final match of the event, where he was contending for the #1 spot, and he clinches it. Also killing Benji Fishing, showing a little bit of love and skill to his old duo partner, and Benji actually in an interview with Bala and Shio Wager saying that he kind of missed the Benji and Mr. Savage duo a little bit. So who knows, maybe we'll see the return of that dominant EU duo here in season 2, but we'll just have to wait and see. And lastly, for today's video, we have a ton of really top tier professionals fail to qualify for the finals, the big 2 being Misfits Clicks and the newly signed member of NRG, Unknown Army. Both insane mechanical players that we're used to seeing dominate in box fights and in the cash cups, falling short of making it to the finals after 2 days of qualifiers. Now hear me out, I don't mean to tear these guys down at all. We all know that they're insanely talented, but even Clicks himself said that he wants to take some time off of wagering and doing box fights to focus on competing and scrimming. So what do you guys think? Are Clicks and Unknown washed? I don't personally think so, but I do think it would be awesome to see them jump more into scrims to kind of perfect and master their play in a more like stacked lobby type of environment. DreamHack qualifiers didn't have the best players in every single lobby, but the competition was tough because of how stacked the games are. When you get comfortable only competing in cash cups, you'll definitely see some issues in your gameplay if you aren't prepared for stacked lobbies. All in all, DreamHack was a fun event, but leaves me wanting so much more out of Fortnite esports. I would love to see more third-party LAN events like this, but I hope to continue to see the support from Epic Games in terms of future FNCS seasons and maybe a 2020 World Cup as well. This event reminds me just how much I love spectating high-level play in competitive Fortnite, and with Shayo and Bala holding it down on kind of a scuffed production, I just want to see a constructed and professional broadcast that much more. On that note, huge shout out to Shayo and Bala for going to DreamHack on their own dime just to provide as much coverage and exposure to the scene as possible. From casting games to player interviews, they were there on the ground as our go-to source for content surrounding DreamHack, and they killed it, if I do say so myself. So again, huge shout out to Shayo and Bala. To end the video, we have a quick clip coming from Booga on his thoughts about a potential World Cup 2020. Let's go ahead and check it out.
There will definitely be a World Cup this year?
I don't think so.
Well, I don't know, guys. It's kind of scary to hear, our former World Cup winner, the first World Cup winner in solos, Booga, saying that he doesn't think there will be a World Cup this year. But I kind of feel like we're just in that weird place with Epic where they're at this all-time low with communication. And we've been here before. I gotta say, I do hope he's wrong, and if you ask me, it would be a huge mistake and a big failure for them not to run a World Cup this year. But as always, I want to pass it to you with the question of the day. Will we be seeing a World Cup this year? Let me know in the comments down below. In any case, we have a lot of Season 2 ahead of us, and I can't wait to see what's in store for the competitive scene and all the pros who grind tirelessly to be the best. So again, thanks for checking out the video. I truly believe that Season 2 has a lot to offer, and even though I'm worried about the balance of competitive, I think we will ultimately have a lot more fun with this version of the game, as opposed to the very dry and boring season like we had in Season 1. But I appreciate it again, and I'll see you on the next video.
Does the beat take you over? You just